Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. You can tell a lot about a Force user by taking a look at their lightsaber. For instance, the custom curve hilt used by Count Dooku puts the blade more in line naturally with the forearm. This makes his lunges and thrusts, a common technique in the Form 2 Mikasi, far more efficient and precise. Then you have the Wookiee Jedi Padawan Gungi. His blade was uniquely made from the wood of a brylark tree from his homeworld of Kashyyyk, instead of using the usual metals or polymers employed for this part of the weapon. But these are both individuals, Sith and Jedi, who were afforded the luxury of choosing their own weapons. Within both of these Force institutions, you had smaller subgroups that were more standardized as far as how they were equipped and armed. They didn't have the luxury of choosing their own lightsaber. Within the Jedi Order, you had the Jedi Temple Guards. These were Jedi Knights who were forced to use the same uniforms, masks, and weapons to conceal their identity. While on duty, they would carry a lightsaber pike. This double-ended yellow blade had a long hilt and a very long reach. This functional design gave a Jedi Temple Guard much more range in a duel, making it easier for them to control the situation and potentially restrain and stop a rogue Jedi, a very dangerous part of their job. When deployed in groups, multiple Jedi pikes were quite difficult to overcome. This could also hide any deficiencies in any of the individual guards' abilities. Now, on the Sith side, during the reign of Darth Sidious, he created the dark side organization known as the Inquisitors. While they weren't exactly the Sith counterpart to the Jedi Temple Guards, they too were an organization with a certain degree of standardization. Their uniforms are varied but feature the same color schemes and style, and more importantly, the Inquisitors all used a very special type of lightsaber known as the double-bladed spinning lightsaber. Today we're going to do an in-depth analysis of this weapon and explain why it's probably one of the worst designs in lightsaber history. So at its core, every Inquisitor lightsaber is relatively the same. It has the usual core lightsaber components, including a power cell, modulation circuit, and energy gate. Well, two energy gates in this case. In this way, this lightsaber is no different from a dual-bladed saber staff like the one Maul uses. It's what's built around the hilt that makes these blades stand out. In its default shape, the Inquisitor blade has a crescent-shaped guard. It's almost like a beefed-up version of what you might see on an old-school rapier. In a rapier's case, these guards are designed to protect the wielder's hand from the opponent's blade, which is actually a very useful thing to have on a lightsaber, but like with many things in the Empire, upon closer inspection, you realize all is not what it seems. On the Inquisitor's lightsabers, the guards are actually not made out of lightsaber-resistant material, and therefore, they're not that useful against other lightsabers. I mean, they might stop a Gamorrean's vibro axe or something like that. But without actual lightsaber-resistant material, this essentially is just a piece of metal that juts out and makes the lightsaber hilt profile a lot larger and easier to hit. Now, if you're going to make an actual surface that's supposed to be hit by a lightsaber and serve as a guard, you'd want to use something extremely durable or lightsaber resistant like Beskar or Zillahide or Pyric, or better yet, Cortosis. The fact that these rare materials were not used to build the Inquisitor's lightsabers tells us a little bit about the Emperor's relationship with these individuals. This is supposed to be an elite unit of Jedi hunters, and they should in theory have top priority when it comes to acquisition of equipment and resources. After all, this organization reports directly to the Emperor himself. And the Empire clearly has a lot of Beskar at its disposal, especially after they plundered Mandalore. But the Empire is notorious for being cheap on materials and tries to use fear as its main deterrent. Whether it's a Death Star or a Star Destroyer, these things are imposing, have a lot of firepower, and make a lot of noise, but aren't exactly the most practical tools. Which brings us to the real function of this crescent-like guard on the Inquisitor's lightsabers. It's supposed to be able to flip down into a full circle. It's at this point the plasma energy from the hilt is redirected into a channel within that circle, and the blade emitter begins to rotate around the circle, causing the plasma blade to spin like a propeller. One of the huge benefits of this ability is it creates a shield-like effect that prevents incoming blaster fire from penetrating. But then again, a normal Jedi or Sith Lord should be able to stop blaster bolts without a spinning lightsaber device. This of course requires skill, precision, and the focus to intercept each individual bolt instead of just creating essentially what is a wall of plasma. But it's clear that some of the Inquisitors, like the 10th Brother, is just not that skilled at blocking blaster bolts. And that's mainly because the 10th brother stagnated after he fell to the dark side. He fell into a cycle of rampaging and killing that he thought would fill that empty gap inside of his heart. Now, unless you're a dolphin, the key to happiness has always been growth. That means facing new challenges, learning about things you're interested in, and putting yourself in a position to improve. Which is why I'm proud to say today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Ding! Congo, do the thing. For those of you not familiar with this platform, it's the future in learning. No tuitions, no curriculums, no schedules. Instead, you get to choose from Skillshare's massive library of different lessons on a huge variety of professional skills. I, for one, have been checking out how to sketch like an industrial designer, which is taught by Julia Troy, an actual industrial design director. Each lesson is structured into chapters, and you can go at your own pace. Maybe if the Inquisitors took this class, they would have designed a lightsaber that was both cool looking and also functional. No pressure and no stress. Tickle your brain and entertain yourself by learning new skills that you've always wanted to have, but you have no idea how to start. What do these things represent? Check out our link in the description below, and the first 1,000 people who click on it will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Alright, thank you for your patience. Back to the worst lightsaber design ever. I also believe that this spinning feature is designed more for terror. The Grand Inquisitor has actually used the spinning feature to intimidate people during an interrogation. The rotating part of the blade also has a secondary function. It moves so quickly that it can actually generate enough lift to get an Inquisitor off the ground. It's not a particularly fast mode of transportation, but it's a cool way to increase a user's mobility. But then again, well-trained Jedi and Sith should be able to do similar things using the Force. Some of the most powerful Force users could even levitate off the ground. So it seems like we have a lot of cool and flashy kind of features on this lightsaber that are only necessary if you aren't really powerful when it comes to using the Force. When the Inquisitor blades are unfolded, we'll also begin to see that each hilt is slightly different. The 5th brother's blade is relatively smooth and has a small indent in the middle on both sides, whereas the 9th sister's blade is completely smooth all around. Then you have the 7th sister's hilt, which has 2 sharp blades that flare out a bit, making her weapon a bit more deadly. And then you have the 8th brother's saber, which has a smooth ring, but if he presses a button, sharp saw-like blades pop out all around the circle, and the whole thing begins to spin like a saw. It's admittedly a really cool feature that he uses to terrify Ezra Bridger, but in this mode, the lightsaber actually turns off, making it not the most practical function. And so that's essentially what we have here, form over function, and in the 8th brother's case, we have extra mechanical parts that can just break down, like those pop-up lights from 80s sports cars. It's all good until one of them gets stuck open. When facing the average stray Padawan or Jedi youngling, the Inquisitors seem to be more than capable at their job, but against a real duelist like Ahsoka Tano or Maul, or even Kanan Jarrus once he gets his mojo back, the Inquisitors seem to struggle quite a lot. They might look and act like Sith, they even have red blades, but they clearly are not masters of the dark side. And out of the dozen or so Inquisitors we've been introduced to, several of them have died because of failures with their circle hilt lightsaber design. The Grand Inquisitor is defeated by Kanan Jarrus when the Jedi Padawan sticks his own blade in between the circle hilt and then just rips the thing in half. Granted, it seems like the Grand Inquisitor just waited for Kanan Jarrus to pull off this move. My theory is actually that the gyroscopic forces of the spinning blade makes it much harder for the Inquisitor to actually position the blade. After all, it is powerful enough to lift a full-grown human being off the ground. But this isn't actually the first time the Grand Inquisitor has been defeated by an enemy using this technique. During the Grand Inquisitor's first encounter with Darth Vader, the 2 Darksiders engage in a duel, and the Padawan engages the spin attack, and Vader just sticks his blade right in the hole and rips it apart. Then there's the other problem with these blades, and it's the guard shape itself. If they're actually made out of lightsaber-resistant material, the Inquisitors could use the hilt area to block or even trap an enemy's blade in that position. But because it's just made out of cheap material, it makes the lightsaber a much larger target that can be damaged easily. To make matters even worse, when the circle guards are fully deployed, the ring actually serves as a channel for the lightsaber's plasma, as we spoke before. And so if the ring is actually struck on the lightsaber, there's a chance that it might explode or cause some other catastrophic failure. The 8th brother, who has that really cool saw teeth hilt, took a blow to his lightsaber guard from Kanan Jarrus, and that immediately made his blade unstable. You can see the sparks emitting out of the crescent area. Thinking his blade was completely functional, he then attempts to flee using the helicopter mode of that spinning blade, at which point his blade just falls apart and he plunges to his death. The fifth brother also suffers a similar blow to his blade's circular guard, and he drops it as a result, and the blade turns off. It's at this point Maul takes the opportunity to run him through. I don't know if these enemies of the Inquisitors are purposely targeting that area of the hilt, or perhaps the Inquisitors have a false sense of comfort about the durability of their hilts, and therefore they are actually using the circular parts of their blade as a guard. But this is actually a huge design problem that alone makes this one of the worst lightsaber designs ever made. I mean, why would you want to increase the profile of your lightsaber so that any strike on its surface can disable the whole plasma area and make it unstable? Ultimately, the Inquisitors were not truly respected by Emperor Palpatine. Even when he tasked the Grand Inquisitor to take on Darth Vader, his actual apprentice and real Sith Lord, Palpatine had no concerns about Vader losing in that duel. But still, Sith from Palpatine's era were always fearful of multiple, much weaker dark side Force users teaming together so that they can overwhelm a much more powerful Sith Lord like himself. This could be why the Inquisitors have such a fatal flaw designed into their hilts. So there we have it, guys. That is our video for today. Let me know in the comments section below if you believe that my assessment is wrong. Is there a worse lightsaber blade than this one? Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,